Hey there, cats and kitties. I am the Blues Man, Johnny Blues, and with this video I want to talk about the anime series Michiko Hatchin, which as of the time of this recording was just released in this save pack format, and it's a series that I had been long wanting to catch up with. Going back a few seasons now, I had somebody comment on one of my anime reviews that was basically saying because they knew I happened to be a fan of series like Cowboy Bebop and Samurai Champloo, that this was highly recommended. You know, I should take some time and check it out. And I'd seen a couple of episodes and pretty much cut it off at that point thinking, I want to get this on DVD. It was that good. And so basically, I spent a lot of time looking for this on Amazon. The only listing for a very long time I saw was the full series in an Italian release for like $500. And then eventually they came out with the show in two halves, both of which were $40 a piece, and you know, it was just not affordable. So to have a save pack just came out, it was like $20. Very, very pleased to be able to catch up with this series, and it does live up to that hype, being very reminiscent of series like Cowboy Bebop, Samurai Champloo, and I would even say Black Lagoon, three of my top, probably 10 favorites of anime, as well as having a very sort of Brazilian Latin aesthetic and vibe to it. The music and everything just really adds a lot of flair to this particular series. Now, I think it is arguable that they say it's brought to us by the creators of Cowboy Bebop and Samurai Champloo, respectively, while it does have as a producer credit Shinichiro Watanabe, who was the creator of those two respective shows, as well as like Zankyou no Terror and such like that. He's actually listed as music producer. So, like, he's not actually involved in the direction or the writing or anything, as far as I'm aware. The music is also overseen by Cassine. You have the writer is Takashi Ujita, and the director in her directorial debut is Saya Yamamoto. So, and to have Watanabe in there is cool, but I don't think he was very much involved in actually producing the plotting of the series and everything like that. But to no avail, because basically the whole plot of the series and the action, it's very much sort of a road trip vibe. It is just all kinds of badass. We basically open the series with one half of the titular characters, Michiko Melandro, being incarcerated. She's in prison, and she's trying for the umpteenth time to escape, to break free. Only this time out, she's actually going to succeed. She's going to pull an Andy Dufresne out of Shawshank scenario successfully. And the entire impetus behind which is this long-standing relationship she's had with this guy, Hiroshi Morenos. She is head over heels love-struck for this particular cat, and she's just found out that he has allegedly been killed in a bus explosion accident. Now, she doesn't for 1 minute believe this to be true. This because when they parted ways, he was all kinds of promising her that he was going to be leaving behind these gangland organization ties to dedicate his life and his love to her. And so she basically is under the assumption that he faked his death. He's on the lam, he's in hiding, and somewhere out there he's going to be waiting for her, very much as, head over heels for her as she is for him. And she has also come under the information, this is sort of the driving force behind seeking him out again, that he has left behind tentatively a daughter, Hana Morenos, who Michiko eventually gives the nickname Hatchin, rounding out the two titular characters. And what I really love about this series is, while they are the main focus, these two characters, going on this sort of on motorcycle back road trip across country to track down Hiroshi, they're not the sole focus of story arcs and, these sort of unfolding story of this particular series. You have other characters that are focused upon, like Atsuko, who is this very chocomocha skinned, blonde afroed police officer, detective, who's hot on their coattails, and it turns out has a history with Michiko. They both grew up in a sort of foster family environment, and through a couple of flashbacks we see that, Atsuko was very much a goody two-shoes, where Michiko was very fiery, blustery, getting into trouble, very sort of impatient with people and just causing all kinds of havoc. And so very much through the course of the series, as you have Michiko and Hatchin looking for Hiroshi and getting into all kinds of different trouble and, running into gangland members and having to try to track this guy down through these old gangland ties and everything like that, you also have this detective who is starting to question what she's even doing. She's recalling the life they had before they sort of separated ways and everything. And she's becoming, through the course of the series, I guess you could say, a little bit compassionate toward Michiko, especially in one episode where we see her meeting this younger girl who's very much getting into trouble, and she can, through flashback, very much relate this young girl to Michiko when they were both kids and everything. In one particular scenario, they were trying to shoplift a bunch of gifts around Christmas time for their fellow foster children, and this was, something that was Atsuko was put up to by Michiko in scenarios like that. She's getting into trouble with her own sort of police force, her partner, in fact, because a couple of times she questionably may have let Michiko go. And I'll let you guys who want to check out the series, figure that all out for yourselves, what exactly that all amounts to. You were also following this guy, Satoshi Batista, who is the current leader of this, crime syndicate, Monstro Preto, and he is somebody who knew this Hiroshi guy as a child. So he's kind of the pinpoint focus for Michiko through a large course of the series to try to track him down so they can hopefully be led to wherever this Hiroshi guy is in hiding. That is to say, if he is even still alive, if these girls aren't just chasing down a dream, essentially. And it's very episodic in that, as I say, there are misadventures and hilarity and havoc ensuing step by step along the course of the way, trying to track him down. We meet characters like Shinsuke, who is this crackhead, rival sort of crime guy, crime syndicate guy who is very much butting heads with the Satoshi character. And I find it really interesting because this character is, he is dog ugly, that is to say Shinsuke, but he's very much like the Joker in a sense for DC Comics fans, because he's laughing in the face of murder. There's one point where they go to this town and they decide to asphyxiate this old guy who's not giving them information or money or whatever it is by putting a bag over his head, and he's laughing, sitting there saying, if you can, still be kicking your feet after 10 minutes, meaning holding your breath for 10 minutes and you won't, have brain death and all this stuff, then we'll let you free. We won't even bother with you again. And so he's very sadistic, and he and Satoshi are, chief amongst which are clashing throughout the course of the series. Michiko herself is just balls to the wall. She's very much like Revi in a sense from Black Lagoon, in that she is tough as nails, she's very loud, she's bombastic, she's constantly slapping Hatchin around, and Hatchin actually gets a few nice jabs in right back at her, stamping on her foot and everything, because as I say, as the hilarity and havoc ensues, you have these girls who are sort of impromptu set up together. They're not very much getting along, and they seemingly are getting worse and worse in dealing with each other throughout the course of the series. But then there are moments that are very heartening where you see the bonds between them strengthening, and there's kind of this overhanging question, is Michiko Hatchin's mother? Could she be her mother? And it doesn't really matter without, wanting to answer whether or not that's the case and spoiling it for those who might want to check out the series. You find by the end that it doesn't matter. There is a sense of blood is thicker than water, but there's also a sense that sometimes, family can be somebody you're not related to. So I'll leave that for you guys to assume what you may if you haven't seen the series and you might want to get into it. In one episode, though, talking about just some of the misadventures they run into, you have them running into this stripper in one episode, Pepe Lima, who is involved with this crime lord guy. I don't remember if he is actually involved with one of the crime syndicates, but he's got his own little organization where he employs the use of all these children who are packing weapons and everything like that. Very just the bottommost barrel of gangland sort of situation, and she just wants to break free from him. She wants to steal his money and get enough money to have passports to get out of town for the sake of not only herself, but her little sister. We find out that she has been raising her sister as best as she can on her own ever since their parents died. I forget exactly how that all, occurred, but it becomes a very tragic tale, and I won't spoil exactly how and why, but it involves largely Michiko and Hatchin's not wanting to get involved with these two and help these two, and the Pepe Lima character tries to sort of blackmail Michiko into helping her because, she is on the fly. She has law enforcement after her, and it's all over the news that Michiko has escaped prison, is at large, and potentially dangerous. So she tries to use that against Michiko, and Michiko won't have it, essentially, because she is such a loud, blustery, forceful, force of nature of a character. Another episode sees this Russian syndicate who's trying to make nice, if you will, with one of the two gangland factions, ends up, kidnapping Hatchin because they believe Michiko killed their boss ages back now, and they want to hold her so they can draw out Michiko, and it leads them ultimately into this bullfighting arena where Michiko is fully decked out as a bullfighter. She's actually fighting a bull, and then at one point she's sword fighting the main sort of Russian rival guy, and it's only by the skin of their teeth that she and Hatchin get back together. There's another episode where they have parted ways. Hatchin and Michiko have... Basically, it's down to Hatchin's wanting to get away from Michiko because just the trouble that continues to ensue as she's trying to get involved with the crime lord people and find out where Hiroshi is. It's just havoc and everything like that. So Hatchin has had enough. She's gone off on her own and she's become involved with this circus. She's made friends with this little girl who is very much lonely, and at first she actually tries to kiss her thinking Hatchin's a boy because Hatchin has, cut off most of her hair and she looks like she could be a young boy. But it's hilarious and almost disgusting because we find out there's this newscaster guy, kind of like a TMZ dude, who's trying to bust and uncover this circus for being a child sex slave organization undercover. And you're not exactly sure if that's true. They also make, insinuations back at him that he's a pervert and he's been, making pornography with the kids and everything. So you're not sure who is actually in the wrong, but that eventually does get answered, which side is actually the nasty one, so to speak, and law prevails and all that kind of stuff. And it eventually leads to Michiko finding and tracking down Hatchin again, and they pair up again. But it's that kind of scenario where sometimes they're together and they're getting into trouble, sometimes they're apart, they're getting into trouble. In one really great episode, almost toward the end of the series, we have Hatchin meeting this boy in a town that they're kind of stuck in for a little while because their motorcycle breaks down. And we find out that Hatchin, back when she was in her foster family scenario at the start of the series, these highly devout religious psychopaths, shotgun packing, and not at all concerned with her well-being. They were more concerned with the money they could accrue by having her in their care, that scenario. But because of how religious they were, she had to keep in hiding this book that she very much was enamored with and loved reading, about a boy who rescues a toucan, and they go on an adventure together. Very sort of romantic, fictional tale, as far as I understand, within the confines of the series. But when they're stuck in this town, she happens to be walking by this bookstore and she sees the book in the window, and she comes under these sort of romantic love lights of this boy who's working in the store, and it's really just kind of an unrequited love, romantic, fascinating episode, because it turns out this boy has suffered an accident where he has no sort of long-term memory. He has amnesia, and he only remembers sort of currently things that are unfolding. And it's said that when his memories finally do come back, he's going to forget everything that's going on now, and he'll revert to the person he once was. And he's very much seeking Hatchin throughout the course of this episode. He even tries to gift her the book after the book was bought, from the store. He has a copy, or he goes and he steals the copy back, whatever it is, and he tries to give it to Hatchin. He tries to, profess his love for her. And being that they're both about 10 years old, or he's maybe a year or two older, it is very awkward, and Hatchin is very much sort of scared out of her mind. It's the first time somebody is seemingly professing love for her and caring about her and wanting to do things for her selflessly, and she feels like there has to be a catch, there has to be something, he wants to use me for some reason, so she's trying to break away from him. And it's kind of romantic and tragic at the same time, because in a manner of speaking, with this in mind, that he doesn't have this memory, or he has this memory problem, eventually when she runs into him for the final time, he encounters her in a way, without wanting to spoil anything, that makes it easier for her to say goodbye, all things considered, because she has had a transformation of starting to want to go after him, and reconcile because she's been pushing him apart, the whole episode. And so it's very much smaller stories like this throughout the course of the series that are really its strength, in that you're seeing bonds between characters strengthen or be strained, and characters being split apart, coming together again, and everything like that. I mean, I've heard people sort of talking about series like Cowboy Bebop or Samurai Champloo, even Black Lagoon, sort of misinterpreting the point of the series. I've heard people saying, well, the series overall isn't very good. The, main story arc of going from point A to point B or chasing after somebody is not very strong, and, the saving grace is only these smaller tales. What I feel like people are missing with series like this, like Michiko Hatchin and those other aforementioned, is that the main overriding story is not the point. It's not the journey, from point A to point B. It's how they get there, and all of the missteps along the way. Very much like the Samurai Champloo video game that was based on the series. It was called Sidetracked. And that's the crux of a series like this, like Samurai Champloo, like Cowboy Bebop, where it has an underwriting overall story arc, but that shouldn't be what you focus upon. It should be the smaller characters, the smaller details of the relationships between them, the dynamics, everything like that. And this series has that in spades. So I could not more highly recommend, if you haven't ever seen Michiko Hatchin, you check it out post-haste. You can find it online. You can find it, as I say, in this very affordable save pack that just came out as of the time of this recording. And, it's one of those that I feel is unsung or underappreciated, definitely underrated, for lack of a better term, because I don't hear a lot of people talking about it, and I don't know how many people are actually familiar with it. I wasn't at all. It was kind of in a black spot where I wasn't watching anime too frequently that this series came out, and I'm glad I finally caught up with it again. As I say, just balls to the wall awesome. Lots of heart in places, lots of action, gore, not for the weak of disposition when it comes to profanity and such like that, and some gore. Just an all-around awesome series. And so, yeah, that's pretty much all I have to say on it. I'd love to hear from you guys in the comments below if you will be checking it out, if you haven't seen it already, or if you have, what you thought of the series overall. Did it live up to your estimation to be like a modern classic, akin to Cowboy Bebop and, Black Lagoon and those other series, as I say? Or was it something that, kind of passed you by? Let me know in the comments below. And otherwise, that'll be it for me on this. Hope this video finds you well, and I'll catch you all later. Peace.